Hello everyone. So recently I was listening to a podcast by Marketing Science Fiction and Fantasy. I'll leave a link down below. And they were interviewing Elle Casey. For those of you who don't know, she is an extremely prolific self-published author, turning out one 85,000 word novel in a month. Now, she talked a little bit about what keeps her motivated and what keeps her focused, but it kind of made me realize that sometimes our motivation or our lack of motivation is really what plays a huge role in us actually writing. While I don't want to produce a novel a month, partially because mine are a little bit longer than 85,000 words, I recently required a bit of a reality check with my writing, but I'll get into that in a minute. So let me pose a question to you guys. How many books will you publish in a year if you write 0 words a day? I know, some of you probably fainted, right? Yep, none. You're correct. So I got away from my writing in the past couple months, and I had to have a serious sit down with myself. Well, a couple, let's be honest here, to motivate myself to get back on the writing horse. Writing horse, get that? So I'm here today to help you if you're in the same boat that I was in. Viewers be aware, this video, it's filled with a lot of my personal examples, so consider yourself warned. First up, everyone's favorite, the analysis. Step number 1 is to figure out what caused the slump. And by slump, I mean the writing slump, like you're no longer writing anymore. Is it because you're not feeling your novel? Do your characters not really connect with you anymore? Are you just too exhausted to sit at your computer and write? For me, what caused my slump was a switch in concentration from writing to wedding planning. Any available time I had during the day all of a sudden went towards venue hunting and my Pinterest wedding boards. I'm particularly bad at obsessing over one thing and then letting everything else fall away. I know this about myself, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me to try to obsess over more than one thing so I can get everything done. Getting too far away from your characters and your plotline breeds an unfamiliarity that makes it that much harder to get back to. Have you or anyone that you know recently lost weight? Everyone says that starting to work out is a whole lot harder than maintaining working out because you have absolutely no energy in the beginning. It's like negative energy. Working out expends energy, but after a while, it starts to give you energy and then you feel more energetic throughout your day rather than just it snapping it all. Writing does the exact same thing, maybe because it's mental exercise as well as a physical. So once I started to get back into my characters' heads and telling their stories, my energy for the novel came back. So figure out if there's other things that are distracting you and try to eliminate those things. If they're tasks that you can just cross off your to-do list right now, go ahead and get them done so it'll clear the way for your writing. Or try to find a better way to balance your writing with all of your other responsibilities. In any case, you need to figure out what it is so you can fix it. All right, so what if you don't like your work in progress anymore? This is a big, touchy subject. If you don't like your work in progress, you have 2 options. You can write something else or you can fix it. Most of us will feel far too invested in our current work in progress to just abandon it and start working on something else. I would opt for fixing it if you or others have said that your story has potential. As far as fixing goes, if your novel just doesn't seem spectacular, then what is it missing? Look at your characters. Are they living, breathing human beings or are they just flat 2-dimensional things? Do their decisions in the novel align with things that have happened in their past? I'm an animal lover and I was raised that way, so I wouldn't just go out and randomly kick a puppy. That's not me. A lot of new writers or first-time self-publishing writers or even established writers can make the mistake of not developing their characters enough. It takes a lot of time to go through this and get to know who each one of them is, but it's worth it, trust me. Kira, you gonna come attack me again? Everyone has already seen this episode. Kira says that nobody likes phony or stereotypical characters in your novel, so don't even try to do it. She's gonna catch you. Conflict can be another thing that you might be missing, and it can be boosted by adding subplots. You can add subplots based on who your characters are and the problems that they're facing. Adding subplots can be an easy thing to go back and do and kind of just weave a couple threads in with different scenes. One of my characters, Myra, has a love interest in a boy who's not interested in her. She's secretly in love with him, but then something bad happens to him. I'm not saying what, for obvious reasons, but then it's more devastating. This is added intrigue related to the plot, but that doesn't specifically concern the protagonist. It's easy to add and it gives all of your characters more depth. So look for opportunities to boost not just your main character, but also your supporting characters. Think of your favorite book, movie, or TV show, and consider how many subplots actually revolve around the supporting characters and not just the main characters. If the show didn't have those subplots, you probably wouldn't be as interested in those supporting characters, would you? The third thing I wanted to talk about is why do you need writing? Part of me was glad for my 2-month break from writing because it taught me something. Writing makes me feel better. I already knew that I loved to write, but doing something that you love doesn't always mean that it's stress relieving. I used to love riding horses, and then I got thrown 20 feet through the air. That didn't relieve any stress. In many ways, I just assumed that riding made me happy. It wasn't until I took a break though, and then came back to riding that I realized that it actually makes me feel better. In the weeks prior to that, I was frazzled from my job and from traveling and wedding planning and house hunting. I was stressed, and then I motivated myself enough to sit down and actually write, even though all I wanted to do was watch a scary movie. By the end of the writing session, I actually felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I felt happy. It literally made me feel more confident and capable of handling the other tasks that I needed to do. So what's my takeaway from this long story? You need to realize why you need writing in your life. This part isn't just about the wants. For me, it provides much needed stress relief, and it actually makes me happy. So figure out what your need is. It might be the same as mine, but you need to sit down and figure out what it is. Because guess what? It'll motivate you. Number 4, think about your long-term goals. There's certain luxuries that I desire that full-time writing brings. I want to be able to set my own schedule and to be my own boss. I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. anymore because honestly, I think it's unnatural, but that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. I want to spend time with my family and be around them because I've come to realize they're more important to me than anything else. Will I have to hold myself in a room just to make sure I get my writing done or force myself to maintain a schedule so I'm productive? Yes, but I'm doing all that for a reason, so I can spend more time with my family. Since this video seems to be all about me, I'll go ahead and continue the trend. I want children one day, and I can't fathom taking only 3 months off for maternity leave. I don't want to leave my infant at daycare just to go to work so I can pay for said daycare. I don't want to miss my child's first steps or their first funny cuss word, because that's so important. You only get one chance to raise your children, so that's a huge motivating factor for me to become a full-time writer. So what would you consider a win for your long-term goals? Think realistically about what you want in your life and then pursue those things like a madman or woman. Side tip, if you don't already, go ahead and try to do quarterly goals or monthly goals. It's easier to push yourself for those long-term goals if you have a plan laid out to reach them via short-term goals. Break it down so you can get each step crossed off your list. 5th and last, force yourself to write. This might be TMI, but I have to force myself to brush my teeth. It's not something I've ever wanted to do. This is not something I've ever wanted to do, but I do it because I don't want my teeth to fall out by the time I'm 40. I do it for a reason, and I also write for a reason. And it's as simple as my toothbrushing example, because I want to be a full-time writer. Is writing easy? I'm pretty sure we all know that it's not, because it takes a lot of time to write a novel and then develop your skills to write a novel well. In many cases, the best way to get out of a writing slump is to force yourself to write. There are days, like today for me, where you're chomping at the bit to get to writing. But there's others when all you'd rather do is watch Netflix or play video games, or look at wedding stuff. You might not want to hear this, but you have to force yourself through those moments. Do you really love writing fight scenes? Do you also feel that explaining your setting is a drone? You have to get through the parts that you don't love to get to the parts that you do love. And the faster you get through those parts, the faster you get to the ones that you enjoy writing. Plus, there's an added bonus. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. So this wasn't a guideline or strict rules that you need to follow to stay motivated. Each of the things that I talked about can be different for different people, but the gist of it is this. Figure out why you want to write, and then tell yourself that over and over and over. I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. anymore. So it's pretty easy for me to think about that when I'm groggily moving around the house trying to let the dogs outside. When I get home and I just want to relax all evening, all I have to do is think about how miserable I was that morning and how I don't want to do that again. And suddenly I'm a lot more adamant about writing that day. You're not going to be a writer if you don't write, so get to writing. Alright, so that's all I have for you guys today. As always, I hope it was helpful. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the sneak peeks to my book, The Elysian Prophecy. I have the link down below. It is scheduled for release in winter 2016. I've gotten some great responses to it, and I would love to hear what you think about it. Blue eyes. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because I post new writing videos every Wednesday, and if you ever have any questions for me or suggestions for my new videos, just go ahead and leave a comment for me. Bye guys!